Okay, so for my check for understanding this week, the first thing with the filter bubble, I think that the filter bubble comes from the algorithms that are built into social media and search engines that basically show you what you want to see or what they think you want to see based on your previous search history or things that you spend time looking at on the browser or on that social media site. And so some of the ways around that, I think the best way is just being aware that that's a thing and being able to search directly for opposing ideas or just alternate sources of information. I think sometimes even, I think I heard the suggestion, sometimes even just searching for the exact opposite viewpoint of what maybe like the first few things on the list are, so that you can sort of start to see the other side of things as well. Another thing that I've learned over the last few months, at least, of listening to some podcasts and things like that, is that it's really important just to hear different perspectives from various people that are on either side of a subject, whether that's via a debate or just listening to their viewpoints and maybe an interview or something like that. That's been really helpful for me to not get kind of siloed in one way of thinking about things. And yeah, just like outside of the internet and things like that, I think it's just being open to hearing different people's opinions and learning from different sources of information. The second one, how can popular media distort science reporting? From what I understand it, popular media tends to report on things too quickly. They maybe don't dig into enough of the background or decide whether or not that thing is ready to be reported on. They might just like have gotten excited about something and decided to run with it. From the one reading that we had related to that, going to different conferences and things like that, it sounds like reporters would grab onto something interesting that they heard, even if the research was in preliminary phases and it wasn't conclusive yet, or something like that along those lines, and they would make some catchy headline that doesn't necessarily even reflect what the research was, and then mislead the public. What else do I have for my notes on that one? Just in general, they'll maybe take snippets from research out of context in order to get a story that sounds good or looks good in a headline, and they also typically don't really have time to go into the details of the methodology or the specific data that backs up what they're claiming, or some of the conclusive or non-conclusive statements of the researchers in those cases. And then with the logical fallacy, which logical fallacy are you least likely to recognize in discussions and meetings, and how might you guard against that in the future? As I read through the list again to refresh my memory, I feel like I'm pretty aware of a lot of those logical fallacies. Again, like some of the podcasts that I listen to are usually talking about some of those things. And, they'll talk about straw man arguments and ad hominem fallacies and things like that. So I think the one that I need to be most careful with probably is the sunk cost fallacy. And sometimes that one's pretty obvious, but I think also sometimes it's maybe an underlying issue with how a lot of people behave and how a lot of people act. I've seen a few colleagues of mine that are pretty resistant to change. And I think sometimes it stems from them recognizing how much work they did to get to where they are, and not wanting to have to restart, not wanting to have to do all of that work again that you always have to do up front in order to sort of set up a new instructional strategy or to establish a new curriculum or something like that. Or to change the schedule that we use for our students. That's been a big one lately. We have a few teachers that are very, very comfortable in the block schedule, and they don't want to change that. And I think part of it is like, we've been doing this for so long, if we switch out of it, I'll have to redo everything, even if that would be what's best for our students. So that's sometimes pretty challenging. So I think that hopefully that covers that.